Animations can be a tricky part of app development, and animations in Kotlin with Kotlin in Android Studio can well be particularly complicated. So I'm just gonna go over. I'm gonna make a super simple app. It's great for beginners. That will demonstrate 6 completely different types of animation and show you what they look like. And it will be a finished product, something that you can kind of show off or use as a sample or an example to yourself of how to do different animations within Android Studio using Kotlin. So let's dive in. We just need an empty activity here. I'm going to hit next. Oh, names. I'm known for my creative names. I'm lying. I'm not known for them. Animate buttons. Yep, that's the name of this for me. And I'm going to hit finish. Give it a second to load here. It gives me a scary warning always. Maybe. So let's start. Well, I'm going to start by just laying out some buttons once this loads. Looks good. Okay. And what these buttons will do is they're going to trigger the animation. Let's switch to linear layout. Oh, except I want it horizontal. We'll change this up. So I switched it to linear. And now I'm going to go to design view. And let's right click here. And if you go to linear layout, it says convert orientation to vertical. And that is what we want. We want the vertical layout. Let's get rid of the text here. And I'm going to need 6 buttons because I'm going to demonstrate. We are going to demonstrate, not an image. Okay, there we go. We're going to demonstrate animations. And each button is going to be labeled the name of the animation, like fade. And that button will fade away when clicked, so on and so forth. So now that I got my 6, let me just select all of them. This is something kind of cool that people don't realize. You can actually now edit all 6 of these text views at once. So let me search for, yeah, let's go ahead and do the text color and maybe the text size. I'm going to say white, which is just all F's in hexadecimal. Yep, and now let's change up the size, maybe 26 SP. That would probably be too big. Yeah, 22 it's going to be. All right, and notice that it's changing all of them again. I have all of them selected. I'm going to pick a background here. I always like blue. That's looking good. And bold, just to make sure we can read our buttons. Bold they are. Let's add a bit of a margin, obviously, so they're not all scrunched together. 15 dp should be good. It looks good to me. Okay, and now I'm going to edit them individually. I need to change the button text and the button ID. Oh, oops. I'm trying to change the background here and I'm writing it out. Okay. This is just the background for the layout. Maybe give it a bit of green. Looks nice to make them pop out a little bit. Lighter. Great. All right. Now let's work on these button names and the text of the buttons. And you know what? I find it faster just to go into text mode for this. I hate how Android Studio, I wish each one of these was on its own line. It's easier to see that way. It's going to drive me nuts. I probably should just leave it alone for now. That's a bit better. All right. And so let's do the fade effect first. Fade, yep. And then we're going to just zoom second. And then my IDs for all of these is going to be BTN. So I'm going to speed this up a bit so it doesn't take so long for you. But what I'm doing is I'm naming it the drop, and then drop BTN for the ID. And now this is flash, which is the text that it says, and flash BTN for the ID with the B capitalized. And then slide, and the ID will be slide BTN. And that way we can read what the button does and know what the ID will be. I want to mess around with formatting, but I should just leave it, and I will. And we'll go back into normal speed in a second. All right. Now let's go ahead and we're going to add in a folder for the animations that we are going to be creating. And for res to recognize this, you want to name it. So I right clicked on res, I'm going Android resource directory, I'm about to click. And for res to recognize it, you want to write anim, A-N-I-M, just A-N-I-M, and you click OK, and there we are. And now let's start creating files in it. New animation resource file, and might as well start off with fade. That's the first one on our list. All right, and here we are. It's just an XML file where we're going to put the code for our animation. Now I'm going to start with the alpha tag, and Android to, I need from alpha is what I would like. Yeah, from alpha 1.0, and then it's going to go to alpha 0.0. And now I need a duration for this. And so that's it just fading out. So it's starting at alpha 1, it's starting totally visible and ending not visible at all. How long is this transition going to take place? 3,000 milliseconds, that's what that duration is, which is really just 3 seconds. Let's do a new animation file. And maybe, what was next? We should do zoom. Zoom was next? Yes. All right, zoom was next. Okay, and now for this one, we're going to start with scale and I'm going to go ahead and close this so I don't forget to. And then I'm going to start with the duration. And again, this is just the length of time it takes for the animation to occur. And it is in milliseconds still. So that's I put in 2000, which is 2 seconds. And how am I going to have this zoom work? From X scale 0, 0. So from itty bitty, we're going to have it go from tiny to full size, which is going to be 1.0. And then I'm going to do the same with Y. From Y, 0, 0. So we're making it 0Y, 0X in size, and then putting it to 100%. And it's going to take 2 seconds is the duration to complete the task. And then pivot Y, pivot X, 50%. Perfect. And now let's go on to our next animation. And I'm going to go ahead and do spin, which was next on our list. And here we are. And again, these are really short little animation files, but you do need them separate. You need them in their own XML, and you want to have them in an animation folder like I do, an ANIM folder, I guess. Okay. And now that we're working on spin, we're going to start with rotate, and that's not where I want it. We're going to start off, we went Android, start offset, so start offset 5,000. So that's how big the offset is, how big the difference, how big the change is, what's the difference we're making. From degrees, and I'm going to do all 360 of those degrees. 2 degrees, 0. So all the way around, complete circle. And then we're going to pivot X 50% and pivot Y 50%. And the start offset is going to delay the animation. So it's going to take 5 seconds after our button is clicked for the animation to actually take place. That's what that start offset is doing, right? So 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. That animation will be slightly delayed, and it's kind of a cool effect. You'll see what I mean when we get this all going. Now let's do another animation file. And let's make a flash effect, or blinking effect, or an on-off effect. Something like that. It can be useful. And we're going to use alpha again. And then from alpha 0, 0, so we're starting from nothing. And we're going to 1. And now what I'm going to do is, well, we're going to use the interpolator. It's one of the more fun words. It's one of the more fun words in Android app development. Interpolator is the speed or the rate of change that it is occurring. So you can make adjustments to accelerate that change or to stop, to slow, to pause that change, to decelerate that change. I am now going to set the duration of this event. So from alpha 0 to 1, we're using the and now I'm going to be repeating, repeat mode. So I'm going to reverse the repeat mode. So I'm using the repeat mode reverse, and then I'm going to use the interpolator to control the speed of the change for our flashing effect. And then the repeat count, I'm going to have it repeat itself 20 times. All right. And now for slide, we're going to go ahead and use scale, and I'm going to close this because otherwise, well, I'll forget. Android. Let's go ahead and set our duration. I'm going to do 5,000, which again, it's 5 seconds because 5,000 milliseconds is 5 seconds. All right, I meant 500. 500. We're going to have it slide. 500, which is half a second. And let's go ahead and do from Y scale. So from 1.0. And now from X, it's also going to be from 1.0. And then what's going to happen here is the Y is going to stay the same at 100, yet the X is going to change. And that's because we're going to be having it slide to the left. The X is going to smush. It's going to disappear, right? And that's why the zoom effect or the scale effect, which is the zoom effect, also uses this scale thing, except we're changing both of the scales at the same time. However, to get the sliding effect, we're smushing it from one side out of existence. And we're using the interpolator again as well. And then we're gonna, and now we're setting the 2 scale at 0 and 1. And again, that is the rate of change. The interpolator is the rate of change. Well, it's how fast the change happens, And we need one more of these for our last but not least, the drop effect. And this is just going to have the button drop down a few lines on the app. All right, so let's see. We're going to do something odd. We're going to write code within this set tag itself. Our first one's going to be using the interpolator again, which is controlling the speed of change or movement or things like that. And again, this is the drop one. We're just going to have the button drop several lines or centimeters down the screen. You'll see. And let's see, at Android, anime, linear, interpolator, Android, fill after, true. Yes, we want it to fill the space after. And then we're going to use the translate effect. Let me make sure to close this. Okay, and let's set the duration right off the bat here. It's going to be relatively fast, right? So it's going to be less than a second, 600 milliseconds. We're going to start from Y delta 0. So from the default, from the set Y location, and it's going to be adjusted to be 2. And let's see, what do we want to set it at? 10% will be our change. We're going to need to have, the letter P here and here. Yep. Okay. And that's, looks good. So that should do the drop effect. All right. So let's go ahead then and move over to main activity so we can start tying all of this together. Actually, maybe we want to do a setting of on-click listeners from the design, because you can actually set on-click listeners here. Let's search for them. Depending on, so it's kind of neat. You can select a button and we could just pick which on-click listener. We don't have any here yet. So let's go ahead and add some variables to our main activity. And again, we're going to be using Kotlin. So if you're not super familiar with Kotlin, no worries. I will be making this approachable. So let's go ahead and get started with a bit of Kotlin. Okay, so from right off the bat, we're going to be declaring a variable. And what's my variable? Val. I'm using val because it's not going to be changing, right? So we're not going to be making changes to our fade button variable. I'm using find view by ID, and let's see what else I'm going to use. We'll use button. I'm going to hit Alt Enter to import the button. Yep, let's import that. And then, okay. And now let's do another button. Val again. And then to declare my variable, this one's going to be zoom button equal find view by ID. Button is what is casting it. Button is what is casting it. r.button.zoom button is the ID of the button in the area. I'm just going to speed this up because all the buttons are the same. I think you get the point. I'm going to copy and paste them and we'll speed through this for you, right? I'm using the button IDs and then casting them to buttons, declaring variables, and the variables are the same as the button IDs that I have used. Just about there, a few changes, let me fix that. And there's something wrong with my ID here, let's see. Oh, I need to change it to an in there, and good. All right, so now that we have all of our buttons now assigned to variables, we can get going. And we're going to be using on-click listeners. I guess I'm not going to assign them each from the design view. We're going to just do set an on-click listener to each variable I created, to each button's variable. All right, and we're going to go ahead and start with fade. Fade set on-click listener, and I need to get rid of the parentheses and add curly brackets. I'm now going to make a variable for our animation. I'm creative, so I'm just going to call it animation, and it's going to be equal to animation utils, okay, dot load, because we want to load our animation, so animation utils dot load animation. Context, the context is going to be this page. What page are we on? Well, we're at this at main activity, comma, r dot, because it's within the res files, anim, which is that folder we made, dot fade. And fade is the file that the animation is stored in. So that variable is equal to the animation we created, essentially. And then fade button dot start animation, animation. So we're starting the animation on the fade button. What animation is going to be loaded? Lowercase animation, which is the variable that we made. That, instead of fade button, we could have created a background picture and set it to that. Or we could have assigned the fade button's animation to be working on the slide button, and then it would say slide button dot start animation. These are all also going to be similar, so I'm going to kind of race through. Zoom button set on click listener. I deleted the parentheses. I made curly brackets. I now have val animation equals animation utils dot load animation. And then what animation? Well, I want it to be this at main activity. And then where is the animation located? r.anime folder, and it's titled zoom for this one. I'm going to have it change the button that it is assigned to. So the zoom btn dot start animation. And then what animation are we starting? Well, the one we just declared, animation. Now I'm going to kind of just copy and paste these because I think you got the point. And just make the changes. And I'm going to speed this up a bit because I think you get the point. And so I'm just using the buttons and switching over the animations to be correct. Slide and slide animation. Perfect. That's all looking good. guess I'll save. And let's go ahead and test. I always restore to default. It looks cleaner. All right, let's test. I'm going to use the Pixel 2 that I've set up. And fingers crossed. That looked uh-oh. Uh-oh. What is this? Terminal, okay. Log here. That's not exactly helpful. Let's try running it again. It's just going to pop up. Okay. Failed in a second, so failed almost instantly. Repeat count not found. Oh, repeat count. That is from our Zoom. Let's see, where's Zoom? Zoom. Flash. It's from Flash. Okay. Oh, and see that C's not capitalized. Okay. Okay. Let's capitalize that. And give it a shot now. This is looking good. Looking good. Victory! Yes. Let's just get that over here. Okay. And let's test. Fade. Zoom? And now remember, so spin was 5 seconds delayed. Warp. And it works. And drop. Flash. Rah! Attack. Slide. That's so cool. Here, let's restart it. Awesome. So, I'm going to play with it a bit more, but all of the code is going to be posted in the description. So if you want to check out any of my code, take a look at it, see why yours works, doesn't work, whatever. All of my code's posted in the description. Definitely take a look at that. If you are still watching this video, oh, I love this spinning, you should absolutely hit like. You should make sure to hit subscribe. I always say it gives me warm fuzzies. It gives butterflies wings. It makes world peace. Whatever you need for it to do, it does that. So please hit like, please hit subscribe. Check out my code. Again, I post a link in the description. If you build something cool or use this to make something awesome and want to brag about it, you should definitely comment, show it off below. And until next time, ta-da!